Sociology at Mount Royal University and joins us now. Thank you very much indeed for your time. We'll get to the details, the later details that will be announced and potentially the obstacles to come. But on the face of it, this is a great achievement from the United States, Qatar, Egypt, Hamas and Israel to get this first phase of the deal over the line. What's your reaction?
Thank you for having me. I think the real story here is the Palestinian people in Gaza who have faced a 2-year genocidal onslaught from one of the world's most sophisticated militaries with the full backing of the world's strongest military, the United States, with all of its as well diplomatic power, political power, economic power. And they are still standing tall in Gaza at a great cost that cannot be quantified, a cost that we will be talking about for decades to come. But Palestinians are still standing on their lands and they're saying, we are here and we are going to remain on our land and we're not going to be expelled from them. To me, this moment in time, we should be very cautious about it. Of course, the relief the Palestinians in Gaza right now feel is tremendous. The reprieve that they're getting is much needed. But we need to continue to see pressure being placed on Israel to continue with all of the different phases of this agreement. The agreement in and of itself is extremely problematic. It continues colonial thinking. It dismisses the Palestinian aspirations for self-determination and liberation. But there are also aspects of it that show clearly that Israel has not succeeded in its mission, which is to expel the Palestinians from their land. Because there is an acknowledgement in this 20-point plan that there will be no expulsion of the Palestinians. This is a shift. We have to remember this is the shift in the Trump administration's position. Since Trump came into office, his position has been, along with Israel, that there's going to be, Gaza is going to be the new Riviera of the Middle East with no Palestinians remaining in it, and that the U.S. was going to take it over, and so on and so forth. This plan was signaling a shift in that position. It was the first time the Trump administration said, no, Palestinians will not be expelled. I think that's the result of the Trump administration facing reality finally, a reality that I think countries like Turkey and Qatar did play a role in, bringing to the attention of the Americans to tell them, this whole idea that Israel has of erasing Palestine off the map once and for all, it's not working, and you need to put pressure on Israel to stop it. So let's see how far this pressure continues to build and how effective it is at holding Israel to account. So we still have a long way to go, but I think that there are some positive signs and some obviously deeply troubling signs still ahead.
Yeah, news is filtering through all the time as word filters out from the negotiations, Muhannad. We are hearing, according to the AFP news agency, that the first phase of the deal will be signed on Thursday. And they're also reporting that Hamas says hostages and Palestinian prisoners are to be exchanged within 72 hours of the peace deal's implementation, which means we could see progress on that by Monday. Should that go ahead successfully, the release of all live hostages, as we understand will be the case, and the release of some Palestinian prisoners, although detail on that has yet to come through, what happens next?
So, this is what everybody is predicting, is that Israel will take all their hostages and then resume the genocide. This could happen. I am not counting that out. But I think it'll also not be that easy for Israel to do that. So why do I say that? First of all, it has been our conventional wisdom the last 2 years that the hostages were essentially the main bargaining chip that Hamas has, and that the only way that they should release them is to have guarantees that Israel will stop its genocide. But I think that was no longer the case really within the first year, but certainly over the last few months. It was clear that for Israel, the release of the hostages was not a priority. They actually said as much even in October of 2023, that it was of secondary importance to them. So I don't know how much of a bargaining chip that really was that Hamas had. The only really power that they had with that bargaining chip is to get the release of Palestinian prisoners, and they are going to get that. So I think what the real sort of power that can stop Israel from continuing the genocide after the hostages have been released and after this prisoner exchange happens is continued pressure from the Arab states and other allied states like Turkey to continue pressure on the U.S. to make sure that the deal continues into other phases and the complete withdrawal of the Israeli forces, the full reconstruction of Gaza and so on. I think it will be difficult for Israel to convince Trump that he should support them in renewing the genocide after the hostages has been released. Why do I say that? I think that the Arab states are starting to convince Trump that he can get everything that he desires, which is, the cementation of U.S. interests in the region plus stability, if he allows for the establishment of a Palestinian state. And Israel's argument to the U.S. that the U.S. interests will be best addressed in the region with the eradication of the Palestinian cause and the erasure of Palestine, that is starting to lose its steam. I think the Trump administration may, and I don't have insight into what they're thinking, but to me, you would have to be a fool not to look at this and say, well, you can look at Israel, they have unleashed all their military power, all their political capital. They've spent it all in 2 years, and they've not been able to expel the Palestinian people from their land. The Palestinian will to resist and the Palestinian insistence on remaining on their land, it's still there, it's still strong, and it's garnering more and more support around the world, not just in the Arab world, but across the world. We've seen the protests the last week alone. So I think that argument should be becoming or should start becoming more prominent in the thinking of the American administration, which leads me to think that there are reasons to believe that it won't be that easy for Israel to just restart the genocide once they get the hostages back. Certainly, the political forces within Israel want to do that. Make no mistake about it, Netanyahu is not happy that he had to do this deal in the first place, and he believes that they can play, their usual scheming game and use their propaganda to get the genocide started again, just like they've done in the past. But I'm not so sure that they're going to get the full backing, unconditional backing of the U.S. in such a scheme, the way that they imagine it to be. And I will say another point here. If they think they're going to be able to achieve through political scheming that they have, implanted into these 20-point plans, what they have not been able to achieve through a full-on military genocidal onslaught, I think they're fools. I think they will fail at their colonial scheming the same way that they are failing at expelling the Palestinian people from their lands in Gaza. I don't want to downplay that they are also making inroads in that expulsion plan, and we should all be very vigilant against it. But the pressure being generated by the international community is growing, and that's the only way to stop Israel. So I welcome, for example, the Spanish parliament today passing that arms embargo. More of that should follow. The pressure should build up now, not recede, because unless it continues to build up, then Israel might be emboldened to start its genocidal campaign in Gaza.
Indeed, a very positive first step, but plenty of work to be done. Muhannad, we thank you very much indeed for your analysis. Thanks for joining us.